Hi people, it's Archivist here, hope you're doing well, and today I have yet another Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel video for you, and this time the Synchro Festival is here. We had the alert for this a few days ago, I believe, maybe a week ago, I lose track of time, and when I saw this I thought, oh dear, I don't have any synchro oriented decks. I have my Blue Eyes deck which has some synchro supports in it, but it's not really the point of the deck. So I quickly got to work looking up synchro monsters because I've said this many times before, but I'm a returning Yu-Gi-Oh player left at the end of GX, so Synchro XCs, Link, Pendulum, they're all still fairly new to me, though becoming more familiar of course, and it seemed like the most iconic synchro monster was Stardust Dragon, so I decided to make this the focus of my deck build and got a lot of the monsters that relate to it. And it seemed like Synchron monsters were the best fit for bringing out Stardust Dragon, and something that was new to me was balancing my deck so that I had a good split between tuner monsters and non-tuner monsters, because often you need both in order to bring out even the most basic of Synchro monsters. And furthermore, I tangentially found Clearwing Synchro Dragon. I think I just pulled it in a pack when trying to get Stardust Dragon, and noticed that it would fit extremely well into a Stardust Dragon deck. So I've got cards like Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which is an amazingly powerful card. And then finally, now that the Synchro Festival is here, I'm looking at some of the loner decks and realizing that wow, my deck is very similar, especially to Miracles of Convergence. A lot of the same cards in the main deck and the extra deck, but I've got some cards like Cyberse Synchron from my Code Talker deck, and I'm using 2 Ash Blossom as well as opposed to Effect Veiler. So there are some differences here. Whenever I'm personally using a deck that I'm not all that familiar with, particularly a summoning type that I'm not all that familiar with, I try to look at like an endpoint, where am I going, what's the optimal situation, and often a boss monster is a good way to start. The way I started off learning Galaxy Eyes was to think, okay, how do I get to number 62? In this deck, I'm thinking the card I want to be going to most of the time, like one of the most well-rounded cards in the deck at least, is Shooting Majestic Dragon. It's got a lot of attack at 4,000 and also decent defense at 3,300, but what I really like about it is it's great for shutting down opponent effects. So you can just straight up disable the effects of an opponent's monster. That's fantastic for giving you some peace of mind. And furthermore, if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can just, as a quick effect, banish the Shooting Star Dragon, and then you can disable that effect and then banish the card that you disabled, which is great. Keeps it out of the graveyard, which most of the time is the optimal situation. It can be a disadvantage in that you're removing the Star Dragon from the field, so potentially it could leave you open to an attack. Not something you'd want to do if you didn't have a lot of life points left, but other times it can almost give you peace of mind. If you see your opponent going into a formidable combo, maybe you want to remove your most valuable card from the field and then safely return it at the end so that it's not destroyed. So I think there's pros and cons to the fact it banishes itself. It's obviously like an upgrade over the standard Stardust Dragon effect. So it's a really awesome card, and also I love the artwork on it. The artwork throughout the extra deck of Stardust Dragon is just phenomenal, I think. However, the one thing I might say about Shooting Majestic Star Dragon is that it is quite challenging to get out. You need to use Arrive in Light ideally to then bring Majestic Dragon to the top of your deck and then to your hand and then to the field, and then you have to have the right combination of levels in order to summon it, and sometimes that's just not going to be viable, or your opponent might break your combo up mid-flow, so it's good to have a backup monster which is still pretty strong but not nearly as difficult to get out. And for me, that would be the aforementioned Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, which I'm borrowing from the Speedroid archetype, but seriously fits into this deck like a glove. There are 2 main effects that really make me like this card. Number 1, when it goes to fight a strong monster that's level 5 or higher, it will gain attack equal to the current attack of the monster it's battling during a damage calculation, so it's quite good for hitting over strong monsters. And then on top of that, it can also negate an opponent's monster's effect and destroy the monster, and it doesn't need to banish itself or anything like Stardust Dragon, just destroys it. And the base attack of 3,000 and base defense of 2,500, honestly that's not bad. That's like Blue Eyes level power. So If I'm about to end a combo because I've just run out of cards, I'm more confident leaving it on Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon than I am on Stardust Dragon, though I do have 2 Stardust Dragons in my extra deck. So what I really do like about this deck, one of its greatest strengths I would say, is that it has very powerful effect negation, particularly when it comes to monster effects. And it gives you this style of play which is less reactive and more preemptive, because it's all well and good reacting to your opponent's combos, their strengths, their massive plays, but if you can prevent them from going off in the first place, well, that is simply more effective. However, it perhaps leads to a deck that is almost overly consistent, where, especially if you're going first, you're going to always try and go into very similar plays, get out as many negates on the board as you can, and then just prevent your opponent from doing anything at all, or as little as possible. And that means that each game is going to be fairly similar. But if you play a more reactive deck, you do get a lot more variety, because you see your opponent play, you appreciate what they're doing, and you have to smartly react to what they're doing. So it's an interesting thing here where I think preemptive decks are more effective, but they do get old faster, I would say. So that's my take on this deck, and while this is my own deck, it is very similar to the Loner Miracles of Convergence deck. So if you've been playing that deck as well, let me know your thoughts on it. One thematic benefit, I guess you could say, is that it is yet another dragon themed deck, at least when it comes to the upper echelons of the extra deck. I've done Red Eyes Black Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, Galaxy Eyes Photon Dragon, Cyber Dragons, and now Stardust Dragon. So I've clearly got an interest in dragons, and I suppose if there's one specialty, one thing I can tell you I'll be quite consistent on when it comes to these Master Duel videos, is that I'm likely to be talking about some kind of dragon deck. There's going to be at least one. Even my Code Talker deck has Firewall Dragon in there, right? So yeah, and reading some of the comments, I get the sense that some of you are like fans of dragons as well, so I don't think I'm alone in that. I mean, clearly the creators behind Yu-Gi-Oh! Like dragons with this much variety and this much love and creativity put into their designs. I mean, as much as I do choose a deck based on how effective it is and how fun the combinations and the plays are, I honestly do factor in the artwork as a big reason for why I choose a particular theme. So I think that does it for this video. As always, people, thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.